Do not trust X-Infinite. And if you don't know who that is, you're about to. My name's Brexton, and today we're reviewing Generation X-23 Issue 2. So, where we last left off, Laura and her sister Gabby were fighting to save a mutant from some anti-mutant bigots, and all of a sudden time was changing around them. And so Laura goes on a search to find Kinney, who she assumes is the person behind this, and ends up finding another mutant who is not Kinney, but is X-80. And this mutant ends up dying because her powers are just all out of whack. Before X-80 died, they told Laura something really bad's going to happen at the facility. And so Laura uses X-80's scent to track down the facility. Her sister Gabby ends up joining them. They find this facility. They break in. There's a bunch of robots that look like Laura, and she fights them, and they break into this hallway where she sees more mutants who she would assume are being experimented on like she was. But they seem like happy to be there. And that's where it ends off. So in this story, she finds out that those mutants using that facility as a home. Some of them are very happy to see Laura, and they're like, oh wow, it's X-23. And they basically ask for her autograph, and then the older of the pair, and what seems to be the leader, is like, we need to talk. What they end up finding out is that these are a group of people who were generated and created. So rather than finding mutants and experimenting on them like they did with Logan, they are now taking various mutant DNA and like combining them to try to make mutant Swiss Army knife that has like multiple powers. But because of this, it is highly unlikely to work, and it normally ends in these people who have been generated with multiple powers, the powers going out of whack and them dying. Some of the characters are pretty fun. There's this one called X-23 who's like super nice to Laura and seems like a really cool guy. He's like got metal skin. And then there's I think X-99 who can, kind of similar to Mystique, like disguise themselves as other people, but they have to like rip the skin off of them to become the other person, which I thought was a really cool, unique kind of play on that power. And then you got one that's kind of like Nightcrawler, X-92. There's X-74. I'm not sure exactly what her powers are yet. And then there's X-66, who we find out is a telepath, but also looks like a bird and can fly. And then the leader, who calls himself X-Infinite. And even Laura in the book, like her thought bubble's like, okay, I bet you named yourself that. What we find out is that one of the generated people's powers in this facility went crazy one day. It caught the guards off guard, and it allowed these other generated people to take over the facility, and now they are living in it without anybody knowing that the facility has been taken over. And X-Infinite is like a genius, and so he's using the lab to try to fix their mutations and their powers so it doesn't inevitably lead to them dying. Laura tells them about X-80, who it turns out to have been one of their friends, and then Laura offers this group of people, hey, there's mutant safe houses and places you can go that will help you. And this is where X-Infinite really pushes back and says, we're not mutants. We're not humans, and we're not mutants. We are the generated. They are very against calling themselves mutants, and they don't really seem to want to go anywhere. They want to stay in this facility. So Laura's like, okay, well, the best I can do then is help you protect yourselves. And so she offers to give them tips on training. So they go to what is essentially like a danger room, and they play a game of capture the flag. And while they're playing, we learn more about X-Infinite, and he just seems really negative on mutants. He keeps calling her X-23, and Laura does not like that because that's a name that she no longer resonates with. That has a lot of dark memories for her. She calls herself Laura now, and so she keeps correcting him, but he keeps calling her X-23. And he makes a distinguish where that's your generated name, is X-23, I'm going to call you that. And she essentially asks, like, what's your problem with mutants? And he pushes back saying, you know, I've read about Krakoa, and I feel like you're just trying to recruit people to a lost cause or a failed cause. And Laura pushes back and says, it's nothing about recruitment, it's about finding community. X Infinite essentially says, we have community here. We don't need that. And as that happens, we see X-23 start to freak out and start to turn like really hot and red. And Laura sees this as something that's going to go bad, and so she gets everyone out of there, and she's trying to help him, and she like holds him, but he explodes and she is left super burned. And we cut to her waking up in a hospital room in the facility, and X Infinite essentially says, once you recover from your wounds, we are going to talk about why you killed my friend X-73. And that is how we're left off. So my thoughts on this. I hate X Infinite. Right off the bat, I had a feeling that this guy was no good. I don't trust him, and my prediction is that he is going to be a villain in these next few issues. I could be wrong, but he gives me a bad vibe. Like, how are you going to blame Laura for X-73's death when you know that that's something that's prone to happen with generated people, and Laura was clearly trying to save him? He also has some weird control, it feels like, over these mutants, and he's keeping them there, these younger ones who are looking up to him, when I think that they'd be better off to go and get help from Beast, or somebody who has a lot of experience with mutations and with lab work and can actually help them. Keeping them there just seems like a time bomb, waiting for each of them to die. He also keeps dead-naming Laura, and I just don't like this guy. Like Laura thought, who even names themselves something like X Infinite? Also, the distinction between humans, mutants, and the generated is weird. I didn't understand it at first. The more I think about it, I can kind of see how it makes sense, I guess because mutants are born with it, but generated people are just like generated, but like at the same time they're still technically born or generated with the mutations, the X gene, and so that kind of is a little off to me. Also kind of dumb that X Infinite has his mind made up on not liking mutants when he's never even been outside of the facility. So again, maybe he'll be redeemed or something, but I just don't trust him. I also don't trust his partner X-66, but other than that, I really like the new characters. I'm sad that X-73 died, and again, X-99 is really cool. I really like the shedding your skin to disguise yourself as other people. That's really unique. And X-99 doesn't have a whole lot of lines here, but kind of gives me Nightcrawler vibes, and I love Nightcrawler, so I'm prone to liking this character. But that's my review of issue 2 of Generation X-23. Again, this has been a really good book. I like it so far. I like where it's going. It does remind me a lot of Tom Taylor's all-new Wolverine run, but it is doing something different. So we'll see what happens. I hope that they get out of the facility at some point because the setting is getting boring. But yeah, I'm going to give this 4 out of 6 Snicks.